Johnny Carson made millions of people laugh on The Tonight Show, but his own life ended far away from the bright TV lights. Johnny Carson was the best late-night TV host ever, and he became super famous and rich. But his story has some scary parts. His fancy mansion now sits empty and spooky, telling us about the man who used to rule TV. When he died, people found out shocking things about his family, his relationships, and his money that left his fans totally surprised. Johnny Carson was a really weird mix of things. He seemed so relaxed and fun in front of millions of people on TV, but he was actually really shy and quiet when the cameras weren't rolling. Even though almost everyone in America knew his face when he hosted The Tonight Show, he kept his private life super secret. People who knew him well said he was the most private public man who ever lived, which perfectly shows how different he was on TV versus in real life. When the cameras were off, Carson stayed away from the usual party scene that most celebrities love. He almost never went to parties or fancy events. Instead, he liked staying home alone. This wasn't just because he wanted to. He actually felt really uncomfortable around people. Dick Cavett was another talk show host who knew Johnny, and he felt bad for him. Cavett said, "I felt sorry for Johnny because he was so uncomfortable with people. I've hardly ever met anybody who had as hard a time as he did. It's crazy to think that someone so smooth and charming on TV could have such a hard time just talking to people normally." George Axelrod was a writer who met Carson in private, and he said something really interesting about him. He said, "Socially, he doesn't exist. The reason is that there are no television cameras in living rooms. If human beings had little red lights in the middle of their heads, Carson would be the greatest talker on earth." This shows that Johnny Carson's amazing personality only came out when there was a camera and an audience. Without that TV setup, he was basically lost. He needed that structured TV environment to be his best self. Having normal conversations with people without a script and without an audience was really hard for him. Johnny was also super private about his personal life, his political opinions, and social issues. Unlike many celebrities who love talking about themselves in interviews, Carson almost never opened up. He usually refused to talk about his childhood, what he thought about politics, or any controversial topics. Instead, he had a funny way of avoiding these questions. He would give reporters sheets of paper with pre-written answers that were meant to avoid giving real information. These answers were often mysterious, playful, or didn't really answer anything. They included vague responses like, "Yes, I did," which could work for lots of different questions without telling anyone anything real, or "Not a bit of truth in that rumor," which was a blanket way to deny everything without actually saying what was true or false. One of his weirdest answers was just, "No, kumquats," which was a silly made-up phrase that left reporters confused and frustrated, but clearly showed he didn't want to talk seriously about certain things. Johnny Carson's personal life had several big marriages, and each one showed different parts of his life. All of them had the usual problems that come with relationships, but they were made worse because everyone was watching. His marriages show us a side of Carson that was very different from his funny, polished TV personality, and they reveal how messy his private life really was. Carson's first marriage was to Jody Walcott in October 1949 in North Platte, Nebraska. But this marriage was not calm or happy at all. Over the years, their relationship became really explosive, with both of them cheating on each other. Their marriage had problems because of Carson's growing career and the usual marriage stress, but it was made much worse by the public spotlight he was starting to get. After more than 10 years together, they finally got divorced in 1963. That same year, Carson quickly got married again to Joanna Copeland on August 17, 1963. Their marriage lasted almost 10 years, but it had just as many problems. When they divorced in 1972, Copeland got a huge amount of money for that time, almost $500,000, which would be close to $3.76 million in today's money. She also got $100,000 every year in alimony payments and a really nice art collection, showing just how much money Carson had made by then. Copeland's life after the divorce was quieter, but still complicated. She got married again, but that marriage also ended in divorce, and she died in California in 2015 when she was 83. Notably, Joanne Copeland never had any children. During the fall of 1971, while Carson was still going through his painful divorce with Copeland, something happened that would lead to his most famous and expensive marriage. At the Fancy 21 Club in New York City, Carson was eating dinner with friends, including a fashion designer named Molly Parnes. While there, he saw Joanna Holland, a former model who had worked for Parnes and who waved at the designer as she walked by. Carson was totally captivated by how beautiful Holland was, so he got Parnes to help him arrange for Holland to take his phone call a few days later. Joanna Holland was divorced and had an 11-year-old son named Tim from her previous marriage. She started dating Carson in late October 1971. Their first date, which was also Carson's 46th birthday celebration, was dinner and a show. From then on, Carson called her every single day at 4:30 p.m. By May 1972, when The Tonight Show moved to Burbank, California, Holland and her son moved there to be with Carson. He bought a fancy $500,000 Bel Air mansion that used to belong to famous filmmaker Mervyn LeRoy, starting their life together in Hollywood. Their relationship moved really fast, and during The Tonight Show's 10th anniversary party at the Beverly Hills Hotel on September 30, 1972, Carson surprised everyone by announcing that he and Holland had secretly gotten married that very afternoon. This announcement shocked his friends and co-workers, showing Carson's love of privacy and control over when and how he shared personal news. Joanna Holland changed Carson's life in ways beyond just their relationship. She had spent time with her ex-husband at glamorous European places like Biarritz, Monte Carlo, and St. Moritz during the early 1960s, so she introduced Carson to fancy Western European travel. The couple visited luxury spots like Hotel du Cap in Antibes and the Wimbledon Championships. Carson really loved these experiences partly because almost no one knew who he was there, so he could be free from the pressure of being famous. Despite these good times, their marriage wasn't perfect. By November 1982, they separated, reportedly because Holland suggested it due to Carson cheating on her. After they separated, Carson moved out of their Bel Air home and went to their Malibu beach house. Holland officially filed for divorce on March 8, 1983. The divorce took more than 2 years to finish, ending with a detailed 80-page settlement in August 1985. Holland got an amazing $20 million total, which equals over $58 million in today's money. This included the Bel Air mansion, 3 Manhattan apartments, including one at the Pierre Hotel and others on 5th Avenue and 62nd Street, luxury cars, a Rolls-Royce, a Mercedes-Benz, and a regular car, and cash alimony payments of $35,000 per month for 64 months. This settlement was incredible and showed just how rich Carson was and how much was at stake in their divorce. Carson didn't hide from using this expensive divorce as material for his comedy. He often made jokes about the financial terms on The Tonight Show, showing his ability to turn personal problems into humor. Meanwhile, Joanna Holland's son Tim, who had been Carson's stepson, sadly died in 1994 from a pulmonary embolism. Joanna Holland herself lived until July 2025, passing away at age 93. Carson's final marriage was on June 20, 1987, when he married Alexis Moss. This marriage lasted until he died in 2005 and is remembered as a more stable time in his life. Carson, known for his wit even about personal things, once joked, "My giving advice on marriage is like the captain of the Titanic giving lessons on navigation," using humor to acknowledge all the ups and downs he had experienced in his own relationships. Johnny Carson's role as a father was deeply shaped by both happiness and tragedy, just like his public and private lives. With his first wife, Jody Walcott, Carson had three sons: Christopher, born 1950, Kim Arthur Ricky, born 1951, and Barry William Corey, born 1953. These three boys were a huge part of Carson's early family life, though his rapidly growing television career often kept him away from home routines. Among his sons, Ricky was the middle child and had a deep love for nature and photography. His love for capturing the natural world took him on many trips where he worked on his craft with dedication and enthusiasm. Tragically, in 1991, Ricky's life was cut short in a terrible car accident while he was out taking nature photographs. This loss sent shockwaves through the Carson family and deeply affected Johnny both personally and professionally. The impact of Ricky's death was especially clear when Johnny Carson returned to The Tonight Show just weeks after the accident. On that episode, in a rare and deeply moving change from his usual comedy style, Carson gave a long and heartfelt tribute to his late son. The moment was raw and sincere, showing a side of Carson that viewers rarely saw: the grieving father struggling with his loss on live television. However, this emotional moment was interrupted when his longtime producer, Fred de Cordova, signaled to Carson to wrap it up because the show was running overtime. This interruption seemed really insensitive and upset many of the crew and fans. As a result, de Cordova was reportedly banned from the studio floor for the rest of the show's run, showing how important and delicate that moment was for everyone involved. Carson's relationship with his son stayed an important part of his later life and final broadcasts. In May 1992, during the closing weeks of his time on The Tonight Show, Johnny brought his two surviving sons, Christopher and Corey, onto the stage. This public acknowledgement of his family was a touching gesture, showing a personal side that was different from his carefully maintained private persona. Including his sons in these final moments showed how important family was to Carson, even as he was saying goodbye to his professional career. Moreover, in the very final episode of The Tonight Show that Carson hosted, the show paid tribute to Ricky's memory in a touching and creative way. One of Ricky's nature photographs, representing his artistic passion and spirit, was included in the final credits. This subtle tribute served as a lasting memorial, weaving his son's legacy into the fabric of the show that had defined so much of Carson's life and career. On March 19, 1999, Johnny Carson, the legendary host of The Tonight Show, had a severe heart attack at his Malibu, California home. The heart attack required urgent hospitalization at a nearby Santa Monica Medical Center, where Carson had major quadruple bypass surgery to restore blood flow to his heart. This event was a critical turning point in the final years of a man whose health had been damaged for a long time, largely because of decades of heavy smoking. Carson's relationship with cigarettes was well known, even during his early days on television. In fact, during the first years of his famous Tonight Show career, he often smoked on camera, sometimes lighting up multiple Pall Mall cigarettes really quickly. At his worst, Carson was reportedly smoking up to 4 packs a day, an incredible amount that clearly hurt his body. By the mid-1970s, he was often heard saying the sad warning, "These things are killing me." This confession showed that he was becoming more aware of the health risks of smoking that he could no longer ignore. His younger brother, Dick, remembered that during their final conversation, Carson kept repeating the regret, "Those damn cigarettes," showing the guilt that came with his lifelong habit. Despite his declining health, Carson stayed very private about his medical problems. In 2002, he declined to appear at NBC's 75th anniversary celebration, a sign that he was pulling away from the public eye. Later that year, he publicly said that he was suffering from emphysema, a chronic lung condition mainly caused by smoking. While he admitted how serious his illness was, Carson denied reports that he was dying, perhaps holding on to hope, or choosing to keep details from the media. Nevertheless, his condition continued to get worse in the years that followed. On January 23, 2005, Johnny Carson passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, dying from respiratory failure caused by emphysema. His death marked the end of an era in American television, a sad moment for fans and colleagues alike. His body was cremated, and the ashes were given to his wife, Alexis Moss. Following the wishes of his family, no public memorial service was held, maintaining the private dignity that Carson had always valued. Carson was survived by his wife and his younger brother Dick Carson, who had made a name for himself in television as an Emmy award-winning director of programs including The Merv Griffin Show and Wheel of Fortune. Johnny Carson's death caused an outpouring of tributes from across the entertainment industry and beyond. Among the most notable was a statement from then-President George W. Bush, who acknowledged the deep affection and respect held for Carson nationwide. On January 31, 2005, Late Show with David Letterman paid a moving tribute to Carson. Letterman invited former Tonight Show executive producer Peter LaSalle and longtime bandleader Doc Severinsen to share memories of the man who had shaped late-night television for decades. Letterman reflected on how for 30 years, no matter what was happening in the world or in the viewer's day, people wanted to be tucked in by Johnny at night, highlighting Carson's unique ability to bring comfort and laughter. He also revealed that the monologue he had just delivered was made entirely from jokes sent to him by Carson in the months before his death, a final creative gift. The segment closed with Doc Severinsen leading a soulful performance of one of Carson's favorite songs, Here's That Rainy Day, joined by Tommy Newsom and Ed Shaughnessy. The Tonight Show with Jay Leno also honored Carson, welcoming longtime friends and collaborators, including Ed McMahon, Bob Newhart, Don Rickles, Drew Carey, and K.D. Lang. On his final appearance on The Tonight Show, Carson himself had spoken about his friendship with McMahon, emphasizing that their on-screen friendship spanning 46 years was genuine. Despite the intense pressures of television, their friendship lasted through shared dinners and drinks off-camera, showing Carson's ability to maintain meaningful relationships despite a demanding career. Carson's legacy continued to be felt in popular culture long after his death. The 2005 film The Aristocrats was dedicated to him, and the animated series The Simpsons paid tribute in the 16th season episode titled Mommy Dearest. Comedy Central honored Carson with the creation of the Johnny Carson Award at its first Comedy Awards ceremony, with David Letterman as the first recipient. The following year, Don Rickles received the same award, showing Carson's lasting influence on generations of comedians. In 2012, PBS aired a comprehensive 2-hour documentary titled Johnny Carson, King of Late Night, narrated by Kevin Spacey. The documentary featured interviews with family members, fellow comedians, and protégés, painting a detailed portrait of Carson's life, career, and legacy. His impact was also remembered locally. A park in Burbank, located directly across from the former NBC studios where The Tonight Show was filmed for decades, was named in his memory, ensuring that his presence would continue to be felt in the city that was central to his career. Now let's talk about Johnny Carson's incredible estate. First, the boyhood home of Johnny Carson, located at 306 South 13th Street in Norfolk, Nebraska, holds a special place in the story of one of America's most beloved television personalities. This modest, simple house stands as a real reminder of Carson's humble beginnings before he became famous as the king of late-night television. While his name would become connected with the glitz and glamour of Hollywood and the bright lights of New York City, his roots stayed firmly planted in this small Midwestern town where he spent his growing-up years. Norfolk, a city in northeastern Nebraska, was the background for Carson's early life. It was here that he experienced the everyday simplicity and close-knit community typical of small-town America in the 1920s and 1930s. The house at 306 South 13th Street is a traditional modest home that reflects the building style common in that time and place, a straightforward design focused on practicality and family living rather than fancy luxury. The home's simplicity is very different from the fancy lifestyles and celebrity homes Carson would come to know later, serving as a symbol of the down-to-earth upbringing that shaped his character. This house was more than just a building. It was the environment where Carson's personality began to form. Growing up in Norfolk, Johnny was influenced by the Midwestern values of hard work, humility, and community, which would later show up in his on-screen personality. Despite his eventual success and enormous popularity, these early lessons in modesty and being genuine stayed clear throughout his career. The boyhood home thus represents not only a place of origin, but a foundation for the man he became, a performer who, beneath his polished and quick-witted exterior, kept a genuine connection to his roots. Second, during the early years of The Tonight Show, a period that lasted from 1962 to 1972, Johnny Carson lived in a fancy Manhattan apartment located at 1161 York Avenue. This home, sitting in one of New York City's elegant Upper East Side neighborhoods, was more than just a place to live. It symbolized Carson's change from a Midwestern boy to a sophisticated urban bachelor fully involved in the dynamic life of the city that never sleeps. The apartment at 1161 York Avenue was described by fellow television personality and colleague Dick Cavett as a four-bedroom bachelor pad over the river, creating images of a spacious and stylish urban retreat. Such a description gives insight into both the size and the character of the residence, a place where Carson could enjoy privacy and comfort, yet maintain the freedom and energy fitting for a rising television star. Unlike the sprawling estates, or palace-like homes often connected with Hollywood celebrities, this New York apartment reflected a cosmopolitan style, blending understated elegance with practical sophistication. The choice of location also said a lot about Carson's early years on The Tonight Show. Located on York Avenue in Manhattan's Upper East Side, the apartment put him close to major cultural institutions, upscale restaurants, and the busy entertainment scene. Living in New York during this decade meant that Carson was at the heart of the television industry's East Coast hub, close to NBC's studios in Rockefeller Center, and surrounded by the city's intellectual and social energy. This environment helped his growth as a performer and presenter, surrounded by the vibrant pulse of a city known for its fast pace and diverse cultural life. One particularly interesting feature of the apartment, as noted by Cavett, was a telescope. This detail reveals a lesser-known side of Carson, his lasting fascination with astronomy. Despite the demanding schedule of hosting a nightly talk show, Carson made time to enjoy this intellectual curiosity, often stargazing from his apartment. Windows. The telescope symbolizes a thoughtful and introspective side of his personality, a quiet retreat from the public eye, where he could engage with the cosmos and think about the universe's vastness. It also highlights a part of Carson's character that went beyond comedy and showmanship, a thoughtful, curious mind with interests that went far beyond the television studio. Third, Johnny Carson's home at 535 West Via Lola in Palm Springs, California, represents a key part of the private life of one of America's most famous television personalities. Nestled in the desert oasis that has long been a favorite retreat for celebrities, artists, and those seeking rest from the intense glare of Hollywood, this mid-century modern home offered Carson a sanctuary where he could unwind and recharge, away from the relentless pressures of fame. Palm Springs has historically been known as a glamorous hideaway, a place where stars from the golden age of Hollywood escaped the constant buzz of the studio lot and red carpet events. Johnny Carson's choice to own a home in this exclusive area shows his desire for privacy and peace, qualities that were vital for a man whose career involved nightly public exposure and a relentless work schedule. The address, 535 West Via Lola, placed Carson among a community of notable personalities who valued Palm Springs for its calm desert landscape, luxury, and relaxed pace. The home itself was a mid-century modern architectural gem, a style that perfectly suited the Palm Springs look and the lifestyle Carson wanted. characterized by clean lines, large windows, open floor plans, and a harmonious blend with the surrounding environment. Mid-century modern homes emphasize simplicity and functionality while maintaining unmistakable elegance. Carson's home reflected these principles, offering a blend of stylish sophistication and comfort that made it an ideal retreat from the high-energy environment of television production and Hollywood social life. The home's history adds an extra layer of intrigue, as it was reportedly purchased from Sidney Korshak, a well-known and influential attorney who operated within Hollywood's inner circles. Korshak was famously connected to many figures in the entertainment industry and beyond, and the transfer of the property to Carson highlights the interconnected world of celebrity, law, and business that surrounded him. Owning a home once held by Korshak lent a certain prestige to the property, but more importantly, it became a personal refuge for Carson. Palm Springs itself offered more than just architectural appeal. The desert's dry, warm climate was ideal for relaxation and health, especially for Carson, who was a longtime smoker and eventually suffered from emphysema. The natural beauty of the area, with its sweeping mountain views, clear skies, and quiet nights, provided a peaceful contrast to the crazy pace of Carson's life in Los Angeles and New York. The home's location allowed him to escape not only the media spotlight, but also the often suffocating expectations of celebrity culture. Within the walls of 535 West Via Lola, Carson could enjoy private moments of leisure. Whether that involved hosting close friends for casual gatherings or simply enjoying solitude, the home's design likely included outdoor spaces typical of Palm Springs architecture, patios, pools, and gardens, further enhancing its role as a sanctuary for rest and rejuvenation. This retreat was a place where Carson could momentarily stop being the late-night host and simply be himself. Finally, Johnny Carson's Malibu oceanfront estate, sitting dramatically on the cliffs above Point Dume, remains one of the most famous and architecturally important properties connected with the legendary television host. Located on roughly 4 acres of prime coastal land, the estate, often identified by the address 16960 Wildlife Road or nearby addresses on Wildlife Road, represents both the natural grandeur of the Malibu coastline and the cutting-edge design sensibilities of late 20th century modernism. The home itself was designed in 1978 by noted architect Ed Niles, whose vision brought to life a striking modernist masterpiece that perfectly suited Carson's refined tastes and desire for privacy amid breathtaking surroundings. Carson bought the property in 1984, making it his primary home for over 2 decades until his death in 2005. This estate was more than just a luxurious retreat. It was a sanctuary where Carson could escape the relentless demands of public life and immerse himself in an environment that blended innovation, comfort, and the raw beauty of the Pacific coastline. Spanning an impressive 7,083 square feet, the home is famous for its expansive glass walls that flood the interior with natural light and offer sweeping, uninterrupted views of the ocean. These walls create a seamless connection between indoor and outdoor spaces, allowing the sounds and sights of the sea to fill the living environment. The architecture reflects a sophisticated use of geometric forms, most notably the triangular motifs that define the spatial organization of the living areas. This unique design creates dynamic sightlines and a sense of movement throughout the home, inviting visitors to explore its many parts. One of the estate's most distinctive features is its indoor arboretum, situated beneath a soaring 30-foot ceiling. This lush, plant-filled atrium serves as a peaceful oasis within the home, bringing nature indoors and contributing to a calm atmosphere that contrasts with the sweeping ocean views outside. The centerpiece copper and glass fireplace adds warmth and an artistic focal point, harmonizing with the natural materials and open spaces that characterize the interior. Inside, the estate was thoughtfully equipped with amenities that showed Carson's appreciation for both entertainment and personal comfort. A dedicated media room provided a private space for viewing films or enjoying music, while a climate-controlled wine cellar catered to his refined tastes. The chef's kitchen was designed to handle everything from casual meals to fancy gatherings, featuring top-of-the-line appliances and spacious work areas. The sprawling master suite offered a luxurious retreat within the home itself, complete with his and hers bathrooms and private offices that allowed Carson the privacy to work and relax. Beyond the interior, the carefully landscaped grounds elevated the estate to a true desert-meets-ocean paradise. A waterfall and koi pond added peaceful water features, enhancing the estate's connection to nature and providing soothing sounds and visuals. The saltwater pool, designed to blend with the natural surroundings, offered a refreshing escape from the California sun. For recreation, the property included a tennis court with an adjacent pavilion that housed guest suites, a gym, sauna, and a bar, perfect for entertaining friends or enjoying personal fitness. A separate guest house on the estate ensured privacy for visitors while maintaining closeness to the main home, making it an ideal setting for both intimate family gatherings and social events. The entire property was designed to balance luxury and functionality, offering Carson a versatile home that accommodated the many different demands of his life. Following Johnny Carson's death in 2005, his widow, Alexis, sold the estate in 2007 to Sidney Kimmel, a prominent philanthropist and businessman. The property continued to get attention in the real estate world, with listings at times reaching as high as $81.5 million, showing its status as one of Malibu's most coveted and architecturally distinguished estates. What do you think about Johnny Carson? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.